5 years ago, I released my first novel. I'd first spent a few years writing it. I wanted it to be perfect. It was my first time writing a novel. So I really wanted it. I think it took me like 4 years to write that novel. And my attention to detail, the research, it's an amazing book titled Behind the Veil. And I also wanted to do something very unique with that book. I wanted to release it on my wedding day because when I wrote the book, I abandoned it because, I had all this notion in my mind that whatever I write, should be world class, world standard. And I'm a novel reader. I've read a lot of books. And I kept telling myself, this book is not good enough. This book can be better. So I abandoned it. But at the time, my husband, then fiancé, then stumbled on it in my laptop. I'd gone to work, he was with my laptop, and it was like, Bolanle, what is this that I'm reading in your thing? I was even confused, like, what do you mean? He said, this is the best novel I've ever read. And I'm like, oh, you're just saying this because you're my boyfriend. Of course, it's the best novel you've ever read. I'm your girlfriend. But he says, no, Bolanle, this book is amazing. It obviously has some errors. You need to, find a way to edit it and all of that. And I'm like, okay. I was happy because really I did a lot of work in that story. So I did try to get it edited. At that time, I did not know that editing was you needed serious editing. I thought, in fact, I was editing it myself. I then carried it and started editing it. But whilst editing it, I realized that I was rewriting it. Now I know that what I was doing when I thought I was editing was rewriting. I was rewriting it to make the story even shine brighter. And when I'd finished, I just gave someone in my family to say, oh yeah, I'll help you look at it, to read it. I'm sure you guys are wondering, what's the lesson in this? Keep coming with me as I tell you the story that changed my life. And so I gave it to someone in my family. He read it, went through it. And he's good too, but he's not a professional editor in that light. So he did read it and he gave it to me. And then I took a lot of my savings. Guys, I was planning wedding at that time, where people were having extra change to do one fantastic hair or to, I could have invested that money, added it to anything. I was just starting a home as a young woman. I used that money to print 1,000 copies of this book that I wanted to sell as an author. Do you know what happened? No, you don't know. I'll tell you. It was poorly edited. So when the book came out, we realized that there were errors. Firstly, I made a mistake. The book that I gave them was not even the correct one. It was like the first draft. Secondly, even the second draft edit was not yet already neatly edited. So there were so many errors. And at this time, I think I spent almost 1 million naira printing the 1,000 copies of books to sell at my wedding. And as I began to read the errors, I was struggling. I was trying to, everybody was saying it's not that bad. People were reviewing it and saying, errors, there were errors, but it was a good book. So I continued to sell it. But after about 50 copies sold, I realized that that's not the legacy I'm trying to build, trying to do something world class. So I had to stop selling. I lost all of that money. I lost a bit of my reputation because I sent something that wasn't good enough. And the lesson that I learned is that do your due diligence. I say to myself all the time now, Bolanle, do your due diligence. Sometimes the client tells us, we need this job at this time. I say, we need to do our due diligence. Yes, we promise you speed, service, and quality, but we must do our due diligence. So now, sometimes I want to rush, but I must do my due diligence. And that is the lesson that I learned, to do my due diligence at all times. And you should learn that lesson too. I've now gone on to write almost 30 novels after that. And we don't have the same situation as we had in the first novel, because I have now hired people who know what they're doing and who ensure that my work is always good. In the end, obviously, once you've learned your lesson, you can then go and shine.